Welcome to the students of first PUC. This is session 4 of chapter 6 work energy and power. In the previous session we had learnt about conservative forces, the total mechanical energy of an object under conservative forces. We will be discussing similarly in case of a spring today. Today in this session we will be learning about force law of a spring. We will be deriving an expression for potential energy of a spring, or more rightly telling potential energy of a spring mass system. We will be proving that the spring force is conservative, and finally we will be learning what is the expression for total mechanical energy of a spring mass system. All these are related to a spring, and we will end the session by learning about different types of energy. Let us begin. Let us learn about the force law for a spring. Here I have drawn a diagram to depict the horizontal oscillations of a spring and mass system. We have seen the experiment of spring constant, where the spring was oscillating up and down in the vertical direction. Similar oscillations can also be seen for a horizontal spring. I have a mass m attached to a horizontal spring. The mass is placed on a smooth surface which is frictionless. If I extend the object by a distance xm, I am representing xm, which means the maximum displacement. If the displacement is onto the positive side, then the spring will pull it onto the negative side. Here Fs represents the spring force which is opposite to displacement. And if the displacement of the object is towards the negative x direction, the spring force will be pulling it in the positive direction. In both the cases, the spring force is opposite to the direction of displacement, and force law for a spring says that the restoring force of a spring is directly proportional to the extension, or we can say the compression x, and opposite to the direction of extension. I can write it mathematically as the spring force is proportional to x and opposite to x, and it is equal to minus k into x. Here k is called the spring constant. Let me continue the same, where k is called the spring constant. So this is about the force law of a spring, which is also called as the Hooke's law. It is also named as Hooke's law. Study about it again in the chapter of mechanical properties of solids. Further, what is this spring constant? So let us see. We know that the restoring force of a spring is given by minus k into x, which does imply minus k is equal to Fs by x. In terms of magnitude, it is just Fx by x, and this k is now Fx, and make x as 1 unit. Then spring constant, what is it? If at all I extend the spring by 1 unit in SI units, extension can be taken as 1 meter. So according to SI unit extension is 1 meter. So if I extend the spring by 1 meters, then what is the restoring force exerted by the spring? That is what is called as the spring constant. I can define spring constant as it is the restoring force exerted by the spring for unit extension or unit compression. So this is the definition for spring constant. And what about the SI unit for spring constant? We know that the spring constant is given by restoring force divided by the extension of the spring. We know the SI unit for force is newtons, and the SI unit for extension or length is meter, and it is in the denominator. So this is going to be measured in Newton per meter. Therefore, the SI unit for spring constant is Newton per meter. Spring constant is measured in newtons per meter. We will now derive the expression for the potential energy of a spring mass system. We will be making use of the work energy theorem. In this case, the work done to extend the spring or to compress the spring is stored as potential energy or it is equal to the change in potential energy rather than the change in kinetic energy, because the spring force here is a conservative force. So let me begin. Consider a mass m attached to a horizontal spring of spring constant k. The mass is placed on a smooth frictionless surface. So this is the initial explanation. Then the work done in extending the spring by a small distance delta x is given by, so the small work done I can take that as delta W, which is equal to the external force applied into displacement. This external force has to be equal and opposite to the spring force, and the spring force is given by minus k into x dot delta x. This is going to give us kx dot delta x. So this is a small amount of work to extend the spring by a small distance delta x. What is the total work done in extending the distance by xm, the maximum extension? Let us see. I will be continuing the same. The total work done in extending the spring by a distance xm is given by the total work done. It is the summation of all the work done, and I can take the limit delta x tending to 0. So now this is going to become integration of 0 to xm of the work done, which is k into x, and delta x, as limit delta x tends to 0, now becomes dx. Therefore this is now given by k is a constant, take it out, integration of 0 to xm of x dx. I have already learnt about integration of x dx, and this gives x square by 2, and the limit is from 0 to the maximum extension xm. I will finally get this as half k into xm square. So this is the work done in extending the mass attached to a spring by a distance xm. This work done is now stored as potential energy. Therefore the work done is stored as potential energy. Therefore potential energy is equal to the work done in extending it, and it is now equal to half k xm square. So this is the expression for the potential energy of a spring mass system. And here I need not write xm always. Instead of writing half kx m square, I can simply write half kx square. So the potential energy is dependent upon the extension from the mean position. If the extension is 0, at the mean position its potential energy is going to be 0. So anywhere between the maximum extension and between the mean position or the rest position, the spring mass system will have a potential energy, and it is given by half kx square, where k is the spring constant. We will now prove that the spring force is a conservative force. Let us begin. Consider a horizontal spring mass system. When the spring is extended by a distance x, the spring force is given by f of x s, which is minus k into x. The diagram, let us just take x. So we know that the spring force is proportional to the extension and opposite to extension. If at all I move it from some distance x1 to some distance x2, then what is the work done? Let us see. When the spring is extended from position xi to position xf, then the work done is given by, the work done is going to be integration of from initial position to final position spring force dot dx, and this is going to be equal to integration of from initial position to final position of minus kx into dx. We have already got the result for this. So now I am going to get this as the work done is going to be minus half kx square, and it is from the limit of initial position to final position. On applying the limits, I will get this as minus half k into final position square minus initial position square. On rearranging, I will get it as half k xi square minus half k xf square. Here, the work done by the spring force is dependent only on the initial position and the final position, and it is independent of the path taken by the object. Therefore, I can say that the work done is conservative. Further, I am going to conclude that from equation 1, the work done by the spring force is dependent only on the initial and final positions xi and xf. Also, if the spring mass system comes back to the same position xi on oscillations, then the work done is going to be half k xi square minus half k xi square. So, if it is coming back to the same position, then the final position and the initial positions are same. So, half k xi square minus half k xi square, this is going to be 0. So, what does this say? The work done by a conservative force over a closed path is 0. Now, I have finally proved that the spring force is conservative. From equation 2, the work done by spring force over a closed path is 0. Therefore, the spring force is conservative. So, this proves that the spring force is conservative. We will finally see what is the total mechanical energy of a spring mass system. To understand about the total mechanical energy of a spring mass system, you need to think of the spring constant experiment. There you had seen that if at all I have a spring and a mass attached, pull it by a distance xm and release it, the object oscillates up and down and it keeps on oscillating, and the spring oscillates between the maximum position downwards and the maximum position upwards. It keeps oscillating up and down. When it has reached the maximum position down and the maximum position up, it is momentarily at rest, which means its velocity at that position is 0. Also, when the spring mass is oscillating at the initial position, when before oscillation it was at rest, at that position its potential energy is going to be 0. So, these three things help us to define what is the total mechanical energy of a spring mass system. The same is applicable even in case of a horizontal spring. Pull it by an extension xm and release it, it oscillates between minus xm and plus xm. At the extreme positions, the energy is totally potential. At the mean position, the energy is totally kinetic. Now, let us see what is the total mechanical energy. When a spring mass system is extended by a distance xm and released, it oscillates between minus xm and plus xm from the mean position, or if you do not understand mean position, it is the rest position. Now, let us see what is the total mechanical energy. Case 1. At the extreme positions minus xm and plus xm, the spring mass system is momentarily at rest. Therefore, the total mechanical energy, which is the sum of potential energy plus kinetic energy, is now given by half k into x maximum square plus 0, because at the extreme positions it is at rest, which means its velocity is 0. So, the total mechanical energy is half k x maximum square. What if the mass is not at extreme positions but somewhere between x is equal to 0 and extreme position? Then when the mass is at a position x which is greater than 0 and less than x maximum. The mass has some velocity v. Therefore, the total energy, which is the sum of potential energy and kinetic energy, is now given by half k x square plus half mv square. Next, the third case, when the mass oscillating between minus xm and plus xm is at a position x is equal to 0 or at the mean position, it is the mean position, has the maximum velocity v. Therefore, the total energy, which is the sum of potential energy plus kinetic energy, is now given by potential energy, which is half k x square. In this case, at mean position, its extension is 0 plus half mv maximum square. So, I can write the total energy is going to be half mv maximum square. We have already proved that the spring force is conservative, therefore, its total mechanical energy has to be conserved. So, these three equations are equivalent, which means when the spring is at the extreme positions, the energy possessed by it is totally potential energy. When the spring is at the mean position, the energy possessed by it is totally kinetic energy, and anywhere between 0 and the extreme positions, the spring possesses both kinetic and potential energy, but the total energy is going to be a constant. We will depict this in a graph. The spring force is conservative, therefore, the total energy E is the same in case 1, 2 and 3. So, therefore, half k x maximum square, the maximum potential energy is going to be equal to half kx square plus half mv square, anywhere in between the extreme and the mean position. This is equal to half k v maximum square at the mean position. We will depict this graphically. This is the graphical representation of the total mechanical energy of a spring oscillating between the plus maximum and the minus maximum extensions. If you look at here, at the mean position or at x is equal to 0, the energy is totally kinetic. Kinetic energy, here green represents the variation of kinetic energy as the object oscillates. At the mean position, the kinetic energy is maximum, and at extreme positions, kinetic energy reaches 0, whereas potential energies are maximum. But anywhere between minus xm and plus xm, the sum of the kinetic energy and the potential energy is a constant, and it is the total mechanical energy. This white line is depicting that the total mechanical energy of a spring mass system oscillating between minus xm and plus xm is always a constant. We will finally see what are the different types of energies and the law of conservation of energy. Energy is available in nature in many forms, and those are the different types of energies. We will consider some of those examples. The first one being heat energy. So, what is this heat energy? Any object which has some temperature means it has a heat energy. This is energy possessed by a body due to its temperature. So, heat energy is always dependent on the temperature of the body. Greater the temperature, greater is the heat energy. Next, chemical energy. Any chemical reaction produces some energy. It either puts out the energy or it absorbs energy. And the chemical energy is because of the bonding between the molecules. So, this is the energy possessed by bonding between the molecules of a substance. Next, electrical energy. What is electrical energy? Wherever there are charges, there we have electrical energy. So, this is the energy due to electrical charges possessed by a body. Either the charges possessed by a body or the charges themselves constitute electrical energy. Next, nuclear energy. What is a nuclear energy? All our nuclear reactors are producing energy because of nuclear energy. You will understand this better when you study the chapter of nuclei in second PUC. What is the cause of nuclear energy? So it is the energy possessed between the nucleons of a nucleus of atoms. We already studied in our high school that atoms means there is a central nucleus and electrons revolving around it. So we have a central nucleus and electrons revolving around it. Inside this nucleus there are protons and neutrons. The protons and neutrons are bound together by nuclear force. The energy possessed by that nuclear force is what is called as nuclear energy. The law of conservation of energy. You also studied this already in your high school, that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed but can be transformed from one form to another. But there is an exception. Einstein gives mass energy relation. So there you may not be able to apply this rule of law of conservation of energy. This rule is applicable in case of an isolated system. So I can state this as the total energy of an isolated system is a constant. So this is the statement for conservation of energy. You already studied that if at all an object is moving on a surface, there is frictional force between these two surfaces. Some energy is lost because of friction, and that energy lost is again been gained by the object as heat energy. So energy can be transformed from one form to another, whereas the total energy of an isolated system is going to be constant. Finally, we will end the session with Einstein's mass energy relation. Einstein says that if we have a mass m, it can be converted into energy. All the mass m can be converted into energy, and the total energy that we can produce from the mass m is given by E is equal to mc square, where c is speed of light, which is very nearly equal to 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meter per second. So if you have a mass, some mass m, it can be converted into energy completely, and the total energy that we get from the mass m is given by mc square. This is the Einstein's mass energy relation. That's all for this session. Thank you.